His gloves ripped. I saw it earlier, and I didn't say anything. Yeah, both of the gloves ripped.
Oh, man.
I thought it was the color when I saw it over here in the last round. I didn't want to say anything, but the glove bust on the other side.
Oh, wow.
Wow, yeah, you can see the padding coming out.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be wrong, but I'm like, I look like the glove opened a little bit.
Some Ali and Henry Cooper stuff, man.
Both gloves are busted open.
Look at this.
Yo, what is up, guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So Terence Crawford delivers a one-punch knockout with a right hook in the 6th round to defeat David Avanesyan and, in turn, retaining his WBO welterweight title. In regards to the result, this is basically what I expected. I was expecting a mid-round Terence Crawford stoppage, and that's exactly what we got here. However, there is more to this than meets the eye, and ultimately, there's a lot to question about this fight. Dare I say fix? Dare I say corruption? Or once again, as the boxing scribes always say, is this just incompetence? And just a coincidence that once again, it seems to favour the A-side fighter. There's a lot of coincidences in boxing these days, man. A lot. Christ. I mean, where do I start? First couple of rounds were relatively competitive. Terence Crawford actually came out orthodox in this fight, trying to keep Avanesyan at arm's length. He was popping the jab. I liked how Crawford was stepping around Avanesyan. He'd throw the jab, step around, and deliver a good left hook to the body. He was also trying to counter Avanesyan as Avanesyan was coming forwards. And yeah, Crawford was landing good single shots early on in this fight. But Avanesyan was coming forwards. He was coming forwards in straight lines behind a guard. But he landed a couple of good overhand rights on Terence Crawford. You know, on occasion he was giving Terence Crawford something to think about. But the thing with Avanesyan in this fight, for my money, is he was throwing too many singles. Usually the overhand right, and it looked like he was looking for one perfect shot to hurt Crawford. He wasn't really throwing in combinations or applying severe pressure or relentless pressure. He was kind of following Crawford around behind a high guard and looking for one shot. And, you know, that gave Crawford the opportunity to dictate the distance of this fight, to keep Avanesyan at arm's length, and I felt he did that throughout most of his fight, to be honest. As the fight progressed, Crawford was then switching in between southpaw and orthodox. In the orthodox stance, his right hook was working quite well, punching around the guard of David Avanesyan. I also liked Crawford's bodywork in this fight. As the fight played out, Avanesyan, he actually had a couple of exchanges with Terence Crawford, landed a couple of shots here and there, but ultimately, once again, Crawford was landing the harder shots. He was landing more shots, in my opinion, and yeah, just dictating the fight, really. And yeah, Avanesyan was there, but in my opinion, he was never really a threat from what I was seeing. But regardless, it was interesting because at the start of round 6, the commentary team pointed something out in regards to Terence Crawford's gloves. They basically split, I think at the seams, and padding was starting to leak out Terence Crawford's gloves, on both gloves, by the way, not just one glove, both gloves. And the gloves were inspected in between rounds 5 and 6. The gloves were inspected and they allowed it to continue. I heard people say that they was allowing it to continue for that round, and then maybe they'd look at them again. But they let it continue, despite padding actually starting to leak out. And in round 6, then Crawford knocks out Avanesyan in an exchange. Crawford delivers a right hook, and he catches Avanesyan and drops him and knocks him out one punch. Now, first and foremost, how can you let a guy fight with two defective gloves? That we can all see. We can all see the tears. We can all see the rips with padding starting to leak. How can a guy in that situation be allowed to fight on? Usually fighters will have a spare pair of gloves in the dressing room in case something does go wrong with gloves. But no, there was no timeout to change the gloves or anything like that. They just allowed this fight to continue. I've never seen anything like it, let alone the same defect on both gloves. Bad padding leaking out both gloves. I've never seen that before. Never. So that's interesting to me. I think this fight should be looked at retrospectively, first and foremost, by the Nebraska State Athletic Commission. Did they act in the best interests of David Avanesyan and his safety, considering Crawford had gloves that were leaking padding? Maybe even change this fight to a no contest, because, again, I hear about fighter safety all the time, yet you're letting some guy fight with gloves where padding's leaking. I mean, you couldn't make it up. And all of these people out there lauding Crawford's knockout and how great it was, but the reality is, this fight to me is shrouded in suspicion and potentially foul play, as far as I'm concerned. And let's ask the question as well. Why were Crawford's gloves defective? Was this just a case of a manufacturer error on the gloves? Was a material used that wasn't fit for purpose? Maybe some sort of stitching? Who knows? It could be a manufacturer error. But on the flip side, maybe something more sinister transpired here. Who knows? I will say this though, the gloves should be investigated. They should be investigated to see if any wrongdoing was done or whether it was just a manufacturer error. Yeah, I mean, bizarre. Really, really bizarre. But once again, even if these gloves were just purely defective and there's no wrongdoing on Crawford's part, the fight should have still been stopped and Crawford should have been made to change his gloves. That's the reality. That's the reality. That's what should have happened. So even if the gloves were defective, that doesn't absolve the potential of corruption here. Because let's be real, we know the answer here. If roles were reversed, and it was Avanesyan's gloves which were tearing and leaking padding, we all know what would have happened. We know that, let's just be honest here. We know. Avanesyan, he would have been made to change his gloves. That's the truth. But Crawford, no, he was allowed to fight on. Again, I would say that is due to hometown favoritism, corruption, and ultimately I would say nefarious activities committed by the powers that be, in this case, the Nebraska State Athletic Commission. Or who knows, maybe I'm just a crazy conspiracy theorist, you know? Maybe I'm wrong in my assessment that when things like this occur, these crazy events, whether they be robberies or bad refereeing, bad officiating, or in this case, bad gloves, well, all of these decisions seem to work out really well for the A-side fighter, but again, that's just a coincidence. Just a coincidence, nothing to see here, people. I mean, come on. When are people going to start being honest? This fight was a farce. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. Everything about it, from the random-ass streaming service that picked it up, BLK Prime, to the sheer amount of money in which Terence Crawford was being paid, $10 million, when this fight, let's be real, more than likely didn't generate anything close to that. Bizarre. The whole thing has been bizarre. The build-up was bizarre. The network that hosted it, bizarre. And the actual fight itself, bizarre. And yeah, I think there's more than meets the eye behind this fight, to be honest. But it is what it is. What do I know? What do I know? I guess I'm crazy for, I don't know, utilising my pattern recognition skills that all humans have. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm crazy. Who knows? Share your thoughts below. It's been your guy Delboy. Peace.